It's Riley.
It's Sloan.
It's Briar.
Hang on to your broomsticks.
It's about to get eerie.
Today's episode could contain themes and elements uncomfortable to some listeners. Please check the episode description and remember to always take care of yourself.
For those of you who don't know, I go to EKU, or Eastern Kentucky University, and Riley also graduated from EKU.
Yep.
Many a year ago. Sorry.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 2014. Just a minute ago.
One of my favorite things about campus is the history. And I actually live in Burnham, and Riley lived in Burnham. And it's the oldest standing dorm on campus. And all I can say is that if you have ever been in Burnham or lived in Burnham, you can tell that it is quite old.
Definitely has a vibe.
But this brings me to what this episode is all about, which is EKU Hauntings. Jumping right in, I'm going to give a little bit of history about how EKU got its name, because it's went through quite a few name changes. So, it was not always Eastern Kentucky University. It was originally founded in 1874 as Central University. And in 1901, due to financial issues and low enrollment to the school, they consolidated with Center College. In 1906, legislation was enacted establishing the school as Eastern Kentucky State Normal School No. 1, which is a mouthful. And then from here, it went through a few more name changes. In 1922, it changed its name to Eastern Kentucky State Normal School and Teachers College. And then again in 1930, the name was changed to Eastern Kentucky State Teachers College. And 1948, the name became Eastern Kentucky State College. And then finally, in 1966, the school got renamed to what we know it as now, as Eastern Kentucky University.
Yeah,
Always with the longest
it's been
names.
a lot of things.
Yeah. So, on our website, there will be a map of campus. So, as I talk about these locations, you'll know where they're located at, and you can kind of get a general idea of the layout. Because mentioning them, if you've never seen it and never been there, you're not really going to know the, proximity of them to each other. But, as I go through these, if you look at the map of campus, you'll notice that a lot of the haunted occurrences happen kind of in the center of campus, more in the center of it. Mm-hmm. Getting right on into it, I'm going to start with a dorm building that is actually located right next to Burnham, which is Sullivan Hall. So, to start, I'm going to give a little bit of history. Sullivan Hall was dedicated in 1912 and was named after an attorney, Jer A. Sullivan, who supported establishing public schools in Kentucky. And as I was doing research about it, some of the history was very confusing to me, but we're just going to go with what I found. There were lots of conflicting things, and I just kind of went with what made the most sense to me.
Well, there's always been lots of, rumors and stories.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of word of mouth, and it just gets everything jumbled. But during a battle in the Civil War, before it was known as Sullivan, it was used as a hospital, and the basement was a morgue. And there's actually, rumors, or I think it's actually true, that there's connecting tunnels underneath Sullivan that go to Burnham.
Yeah, that's what I had always heard. And I've heard that there's even tunnels all over campus.
Yeah.
And some of them that they still use, especially when they do catering, because if you ever notice, if they're doing a catering event in King Johnson, you never see them carrying stuff from the cafeteria. It's because there's tunnels underneath that they use.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's true, I've never seen them, but...
But getting into the haunted part, it is said to be haunted by a ghost named Victoria, who was a nursing student that lived in the hall. And Victoria tragically hung herself in about 1970s is roughly what I found, in room 419, and in the building that is currently still standing. And Sullivan is still inhabited by students. It's still a dorm.
It used to be the honors dorm.
Mm-hmm. And now Burnham's the honors dorm.
Yeah, it was honors dorm. And they used to do a Halloween party in the basement every year. because it was known for being the creepy building on campus. But they stopped doing that right before I came.
But room 419 is still in the building, but no one can stay in it, and the area is prohibited. Like, no one can get to it. But it is said that if you can get close to it and you look through the door, like the closed door, like through the crack, you can see the shadow of a hanging person swinging back and forth.
That's creepy.
And you can also apparently hear noises and moving objects from that area, like that floor in that area of the room, which I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah.
I've never been in Sullivan, so. But with the rest of the dorm, there have still been many encounters with Victoria, or who everyone assumes is Victoria, and there's been accounts of personal objects being moved or opened, and hairbrushes moving places, nail polish being thrown across the room, closet doors opening and closing on its own repeatedly through the night. So there's a pretty good activity, or accounts of activity happening in all of Sullivan, not just that floor or that area. But that's all I have on Sullivan, and I don't know anyone who lives in Sullivan, so I don't have any more personal accounts to tell about it.
Well, Tristany lived in Sullivan for a while. I don't know if she had ghost stories or not.
But this brings me to Burnham, which takes me back to the tunnels connecting under Sullivan to Burnham, and there's actually apparently a second basement in Burnham, which is where the tunnel connects, not like the current basement. But there's rumors of students accessing the second basement and posting about it on old internet forums, but there's not really any evidence of it. Like, I try to find it, and people are still saying, like, they've never found it, but that they knew that it was on there. But
I wonder where it would be.
I have no idea.
Now I'm trying to think of where it could be in there.
Yeah.
It's creepy. The basement is creepy.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
But I don't... Do people still live in the basement?
I have no clue. I know there's still the rooms down there. I just don't know if they still have students living down there.
Because when I was there were still students in the basement.
But, like I said earlier, Burnham is the oldest standing dorm building on campus. So, I think 100% without a doubt, it would be haunted. Like, it's for sure haunted. Burnham's most famous ghost, though, I didn't know that Burnham had, like, actual...
A famous ghost?
Like,
I
famous,
didn't either.
Yeah. I just knew that people had experiences. I just didn't know that there was a actual ghost that a lot of people have seen. Mm-hmm. And it's gained the name the Shadow Man.
Well, that's really creepy because Burnham has been all female up until last year or so when they switched it to honors.
Yeah, I think that was my first semester. But the general description of this ghost is an unnaturally tall and thin shadow figure who usually stands completely still just behind the person. And this is down in the basement, which is, there's the laundry room down there, and then there's a, like...
There was the little tiny kitchen, and then it's like just like a big open room with hideous green tile.
Yeah.
Is it still hideous green tile?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the creepy laundry room.
Yeah.
Which you step through the door and you feel like you've like hit the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
The lighting is different. The whole vibe is different.
Yeah.
I never did laundry down there, and I only went into the laundry room one time. And then on the other side was dorms where people lived.
Yeah. But residents have said that they've seen him out of the corner of their eye. So, like, that's how... You don't really ever see him fully, but you see him, like, out of the corner of your eye and just, like, feel the presence. I typically do not go in the laundry room because I bring my clothes home. But there's been a couple of times where I've had to actually go do laundry. And one of the times, the first time I ever went down to the basement, I couldn't even make it to the laundry room. I was on the phone with Riley, and I was, like, just looking around because I was like, you know what? I gotta kill time, and I've never been to the basement, and I'm by myself, and on the phone with Riley. It's a great opportunity. But I remember getting to the bottom of the stairs and opening the door to go into the basement, and I was like, Riley, this ain't right.
You stopped. We're FaceTiming. And you, like, freeze, and you're like, no.
I was, like, 6 steps in, like, down the hall, and I was like, I I don't think so. And I was like, I have to turn around.
Yeah, you were like, I'm not supposed to be down here. And you didn't. Back up you went.
But then, about a week or so later, Garrett and I had to go do a load of laundry because we had some clothes that needed washed. And we got actually to the laundry room, and we were loading the washing machine, and I was like, this is funky. It's funky in here. But I never saw the Shadow Man, but it definitely, like, you
but
walk
the
in
Shadow
there.
Man saw you.
He probably did. But it was like, it really is like you walk into the Twilight Zone or something. You're just like...
It's weird. It was very weird.
It's a different dimension in there.
That's a bit how it feels. That sounds crazy to say. But it's like you're in there and it's really bright, or it used to be. The main room with the green tile, it always felt pretty bright in there. And then, like, you walk into the laundry room and you're like, it used to have wood panels. Did it have, like, wood panels? There was, like, one wall that had wood panels.
I had my eyes on the washing machine and I was like, let's go.
It was just weird.
Oh, that's the thing that people talk about, that there are certain rooms or certain areas and stuff that are portals. Mm-hmm. Or they're extremely haunted.
Maybe that's where the entryway to the bottom, the next basement to the tunnel is. I don't know. I always thought it was weird, and I never did laundry.
Yeah.
It's on top of a hellmouth.
Maybe. It is creepy.
Wouldn't doubt it.
And it's not like it's not like there's much there, or like it's like finished and it's just washing machines and like dryers and stuff. But it was creepy.
So in my dorm room, I haven't had really any experiences that were paranormal, but I've actually, while doing research and thinking about experiences to talk about, I was like, there's some things that could potentially be there. I can't really debunk them or not. So I had a roommate for my first semester, and there were a lot of things that I just kind of blamed on her and never really like confronted her about. So I can't really fully debunk that it was not really her doing them. But one particular thing I really think about is I had got home from the weekend and I went up to my dorm, and each dorm has a desk and a chair for each student. Well, my desk chair was like right in the middle of my room, and I was like, what is going on? And I even sent pictures to everyone in my family, and I was like, I can't. Why is she touching my chair?
What else is she touching?
Yeah. So I automatically thought it was her. But, like, thinking there was no real reason for her to use my chair because, like I said, each student has a chair in there. So I was like, there's no reason for her to use my chair. But I can't be for sure if that was the Shadow Man or...
Well, I have a question. This gets a little dark, but is there a light in the center of the rooms or anything that, like, you could hang from?
No.
I don't know how the rooms are, so...
They have big, like, block lights.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, because I was like, her name was Victoria.
Yeah, but that wasn't Sullivan.
Yeah, but still, if tunnels
they're connected.
Yeah.
Because when you think of a chair in the center of a room, that's usually...
Yeah.
It's dark to think about, but usually that means somebody's trying to.
Yeah. So, that was really the only, like, thing happening to me that I, looking back, I was like, maybe in my room that was some experience, but I don't really hear anything besides the pipes. Like, I'll hear the water running down the pipes, but that's just because it's 3,000 years old. Yeah. But I have a couple of friends who were my same floor. I live in the suite style, so there's my room. The room next to me is connected to from a bathroom to my room. And then there's another group of the suite styles, and they're in those rooms. And they have heard knocking and banging, and one of them will actually hear, while the other one's not in there, will hear people talking, like, to them. And I was like, that's creepy.
That is creepy.
So, but I know Riley has some stories from Burnham.
Yeah, I've got several stories. I lived on the 3rd floor, and on the community style, so I didn't share a bathroom with anybody. We shared one big bathroom for the whole floor. And let's see. I'm trying to think of where to start. one that plays off of the center of the room. So it was when I lived with Ashton. What, probably the first semester we lived together in there. I stayed in the same room every semester except for the first one. And then I moved to this room and I was there for 3 semesters or so. 3. But we had been out and we come back and the trash can, like when you walked in, we were on a corner and you walked in our door and there was like, the closet came out. So it was like a little hallway. It's not really a hallway. It's just right there at the door. Like you couldn't put anything there. And the trash can, which we always kept under the sink, was right at the door. Like, you open the door and you're like, the trash can. And we both didn't say anything. We were just like, that didn't make any sense. Why'd you put the trash can there? But neither one of us said anything till later. And then I was like, why'd you put the trash can over here? And then she didn't put it over there and I didn't put it over there. So we were like, huh. And then the trash can also at a certain point ended up in the middle of our floor. Like, ended up in the middle of the room. And we left it there for a while because we were just both kind of like,
let's not move it anymore.
I ain't touching it.
Okay, we'll just leave it there. The closet doors, my closet door used to open. And it would be, you would hear it unlatch. Not just like where it's an old building and it's like drafty. Like, no, you'd hear it click.
Yeah, because
and it would open.
My closet door doesn't latch. So if mine opens, it's never opened. But if mine opened, I would really just blame it on it being an old building and my door not latching. But where yours latch it,
yeah, you would hear it like unlatch, like click, like
just a click.
Nope. And then
that's no bueno for me. I'd be moving out. Nope. I don't mess with closets. I
never had any like scary feelings in there, but there was stuff that happened. Then my last semester, I was rooming with someone different, but in the same room. And I was sitting on my bed, like I always had my bed, it was facing my closet. And I was on one side, she was on the other. And I had changed into my pajama shirt, but I was sitting on my bed, and I went to throw it. Like, so, when you go to toss it, and I was just going to, like, underhand toss it. But when I threw my hand down, my shirt got pulled out of my hand. And I was like, swoop, like I went to throw it, but the shirt was already jerked out of my hand. And I was like, her name was Brittany, and I was like, my shirt just got pulled out of my hand. And I was just kind of like, oh,
well,
okay. And
I guess it's staying there.
Well, no, I picked it up and I tossed it to the closet. But that was the weirdest because, it didn't get caught on anything. There was nothing there. But it was a tug. Like, I remember I went to throw and it was like a tug.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's crazy.
That was always creepy. I'm trying to think. I think Ashton and Katie had something happen one time. I know we heard like a little kid laugh once too. And we thought someone was messing with us. Because we used to always try and scare each other. Anyway. And then when you were like showering, like we would try and scare each other in the shower.
Punch the shower curtain and run away.
Yeah, we would punch the shower curtain and run away until I punched a person that was not who it was supposed to be. And then we stopped. Then we stopped that game because, I punched a stranger in the shower. But she was probably terrified. We'll find her horror podcast and she'll be talking about EKU and be like, I got punched in the shower one time.
Sorry, that was just Riley.
But it was, and the bathroom sometimes would give you creepy vibes. Not all the time.
The staircase on my side gives me creepy vibes sometimes.
And it's just like every now and then there's like that's what makes it weirder. Is it's not always creepy.
Yeah.
So you could be in and out, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, it's a little off in here. And that's how it would be, because you would go in to the showers, and there was like a bathroom stall door that opened, and there's 4 separate stalls for the showers, and you pull your shower curtain. It wasn't like a group shower area. Mm. There was 4 separate stalls. But it had one metal bathroom, like, door stall to block it so that there's privacy towards the bathrooms. And sometimes over there, it would be kind of creepy. And that's why a lot of times we would all shower, like, you would together Like, you would go in with your friends and you would take up all 4 showers, or just the 2 of you, but it was just kind of creepy in there every now and then. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of any other stories.
Well, and your friend getting on the show.
Oh, yeah.
I have that a little later.
You have that? Okay.
Yeah. Because that wasn't specifically Burnham.
Mm-hmm.
No, there is the guy that comes, the Chris Moon, the psychic guy. And he comes every so often. He was there when we went, but he had been before, and I don't know if there's any talk of him coming. But he has, like, a ghost box, like a spirit box, and he would pull, like, random tickets. And the year we went, Ashton got pulled, and he would do, like, a ghost box session, and I think he did it in the King Johnson building, and it freaked her out. She said it was really emotional and kind of freaky.
So, since we are kind of wrapping up on Burnham, we can go ahead and move on. So, the next I have on my list is Clay Hall, which is in proximity to Burnham and Sullivan. It's right behind Burnham, going toward the new science building, like towards the road.
Which is actually where my friend Katie, lived her first semester until she moved to Burnham.
Interesting. Do you know what floor she lived on?
It was, I would say, probably 3rd, maybe.
Okay. Well, because that'll come into play later. So, Clay also, I didn't realize, I never really knew it was kind of haunted. It's not really one of the main ones people talk about, I feel. And it also has a, like, well-known ghost that people see. Either. And it resides on the 8th floor.
Oh, no, because we would take the stairs sometime, and I ain't taking stairs up 8 floors. So.
Which, as the ghost here is also said to be like a shadowy figure, kind of like the one in Burnham. And it has been seen sitting on residents' beds.
I'm out.
So, as I'm researching this and looking at this, I was sitting there and Garrett was on the bed with me, and I was, like, telling him about it, because his first year, he lived in Clay. And I was like, what floor were you on? He lived on the 8th floor.
Oh.
But he said he had never encountered the shadow figure before. But he would hear knocking on his door, and, like, no one was there. And no one was in the hall. Like, couldn't get away in the time that he got to the door. Like, unless they got back in another room real quick.
In every dorm that I've been in on campus, it's echoey. It doesn't matter if it's the older buildings where it's super echoey, or the newer ones that, like, if someone took off running down the hall, unless they were, like, light as a feather on their feet, you're going to hear them running.
Yeah. He also told me another story of, he was taking a shower, and he was in the community showers also, in Clay, though. And he got, like, a feeling that someone was watching him, and he rushed out of his shower, and no one was in the bathroom with him. Like, he was completely in there alone, and the window in there was fogged up. So, and he's on the 8th floor. So, like, but it was fogged up, so no one even, like, maybe across the way could have even been looking in. Mm-hmm. So, he's got a couple of experiences, but other than that, unless you have one from Katie or something.
No, but that's one of those things where it's just every now and then it's the creepy vibes, which makes you think, because it's not like you're always terrified of the showers, you're always terrified in this area, except for the laundry room.
Oh yeah, the laundry room, that's a consistent.
But it's like just sometimes you're walking and you're like, I need to get to my door fast.
Yeah. And then you start speed walking and then you're like, and you can't turn around. Not turn around.
I've had that, and you're running up the stairs, and you're like, do not look behind you. And you're just like, go, go, go.
Yeah.
Go, go, go. Go to your room. Go. Don't look at anything else, but get to your door. And then you're like, why did I feel that way?
Yeah. And I've had it going down the steps. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, then you get to the hall, and there's just more dorms, and you're like, please just let it be the staircase. And then it usually is, but it's scary. But other than that, that's all I really have on Clay, because Garrett's the only person that...
Yeah, and I don't think because I stayed there maybe once or twice, but probably not. It was only one semester, and then she moved to Burnham, and her and Ashton stayed in Burnham, because Ashton lived in Palmer her first semester. And then I think it was Palmer. But then they moved to Burnham together, and we were all on the same floor. But I don't remember any stories over there. I think her roommate went crazy. But she had a creepy experience one time, but it was like real people, because she woke up and there was a strange guy in her room.
Jeez.
And it was her roommate had let him in. And then, you're supposed to stay with your guest.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She had went to shower and stuff and just left this strange guy in the room while Katie was sleeping.
Jeez.
I would have lost.
I would have freaked out. Yeah.
I would have probably been throwing stuff at him. Like,
I'd be like, get out.
Yeah.
I'm going to escort you to the restroom, and you can stay with her.
Yeah, you can sit outside there and wait.
But moving away from the dorm buildings now, I'm going to be talking about probably the most well-known ghost to haunt EKU, which is the Blue Lady.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And she is known to haunt the Pearl Buchanan Theater of the Keen Johnson building. And the actual origins of the ghost, or where the ghost, like, who the ghost originally was, are kind of up for debate. Some stories say that the Blue Lady was an actress who committed suicide in the bell tower of the Pearl Buchanan Theater and now haunts the building. But a different story that's from 1973 describes the ghost as an actress, so they were both actresses, but performed a Greek tragedy where her character committed suicide, and the actress poured her heart out into the whole performance and was so emotionally drained afterward that she walked off stage and no one ever saw her again. So she just kind of disappeared. And they think that was her spirit just lingered in the building because that was her last performance and she poured her heart out into it. I think it could be meshed both.
Yeah.
So.
I think a mesh story makes sense.
Yeah.
She's one that has always felt more legend than anything, really, because it's always, you do your campus tours and your orientation and, they talk about the Blue Lady.
Yeah.
And anytime you're out at night, you're always, looking at Keen Johnson and
seeing if you see it, yeah. Mm-hmm. So even though the backstory is tragic, either way you take it, or if you mesh them together, the spirit is not known to be malevolent. Most of the sightings of the Blue Lady are just seeing a blue mist around the bell tower that eventually can be made out to a woman in a dress that has a blue tint. But those are not actually the only encounters that people attribute to the Blue Lady. People who have been in the theater say they've heard old style singing and seen elevators moving on their own, heard footsteps while being the only one in the building, heard pianos playing while being the only one in the building. So there's a bunch of things that they all are like, that's the Blue Lady, even though you don't see her, you just hear the things.
Now, I have been through back in some of that where, not a lot of people go. The stage that is the Buchanan part that's attached. I have been in the backstage of that and over there, and it is a little creepy.
I've actually never been in Keen Johnson or the theater part.
Oh, you're missing out. Now, I've also had an experience I'd forgot about till we brought up the Blue Lady of me and Ashton, because we would, out in front of Burnham, there's the little flower area, and we would call it the stoop, and that's where we would sit if we didn't want to walk up the 3 flights of stairs. And there was a couple of nights where we would see lights up in the bell tower, and you're trying to look and, am I seeing things? What is that? And we would see just weird lights up in there. So we never made it out to look like a lady, but there would be times where there'd be weird lights up there.
And I've never seen the Blue Lady, but I don't typically make it a habit to be out at night because I think the whole area outside of Burnham and Keen Johnson and in the ravines on one side, Keen Johnson's on the other, and then there's Burnham. They make a little triangle, and that whole area to me feels off, and it just gives me a vibe. So I just don't. And I was telling Garrett one day, I was like, you can just feel the shift. If you're walking toward Case and Powell, you can just feel the shift. Once you get past Keen Johnson and you're far enough away from Burnham that you're like, oh, okay, I'm okay. It's
the old once you're to the new.
Yeah.
Now, I I would never be. I was never out by myself either.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little creepy. Now, Ashton was a wild one. And she used to go on walks by herself. She would just be like, she would go on a walk down, like around the ravine. I don't know where she would walk, but she would go on a walk by herself.
I think I've walked outside twice by myself to go to my car that's all the way in Lancaster lot, which is like across the whole campus. And I've called Riley and had her on the phone with me because I'm like, it's a little weird out. No people out. It's just the energy.
Yeah, she would. But she was also wild because she would carry brass knuckles in her purse or a roll of quarters. So she was not scared of anything. She's a wild one.
Somebody up.
She would have.
So probably the second most well-known spirit that haunts campus is a dog named Mozart. And Mozart is actually was a black stray dog that wandered onto campus and became just part of the community and lived there. And he became the unofficial mascot from 1947 to 1964. And his name came from his love of music because he would sit in on classes in the music building or anywhere that music could be heard. And he knew when classes were supposed to be over, so he would bark at professors who held class time over. And many former students talk about the times when he slept in their dorms when it was cold. And when he passed away, he was actually honored with a stone plaque that marked his grave in the ravine behind the amphitheater. And his spot has become like a landmark. And people have seen sightings of his spirit roaming campus. But some people like to say that it could just be another stray dog because it's not really gated off. The strays could come on campus. But
No, I will tell you that I have one strange encounter with a dog on campus. And I never saw a dog any other time on campus unless it was with somebody.
yeah, I've never seen a dog on campus unless it's been like someone having their dog.
Yeah, I've seen a skunk. And
I
million
walked right
cats.
past a skunk.
There used to be one that would hang out up in front of the Burnham doors. And you'd be like, look, buddy, you live your life, I live mine.
You let
We're
me
cool.
be.
But, and then all the cats. But the dog, I was with Ashton and Katie, and it was in the Lancaster lot, which we call the mile lot, because it's straight up and downhill. It's like wavy.
It really is. It's rough.
Yeah. But we were walking to, we had to park way out, BFE at the very end. And we're walking, and this dog just comes out from between cars. And, I mean, I thought I was going to have to stab the dog. Like, because I had my pocket knife, and I was like, I'm going to have to kill this dog.
Oh, I remember you telling me this story.
And we're all like, oh. And we're all, usually like, oh, puppy. He came out like Cujo or something out of nowhere and was staring at us and like hunkered over. And we were like, just stay over there, buddy. And we just like walked by, and he didn't come after us or anything. He just came out from between the cars looking all like aggressive and watched us. And we just walked onto our car, and then he was gone. I don't even remember us seeing him when we pulled the car out.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But that's the only time I ever saw a dog, a stray dog on campus.
So, it's also, most people see him in the ravine. Mm-hmm. But there have been other experiences to have happened there. And like I said before, that whole area gives me a vibe. And one encounter that we know of for sure was actually one of Riley's friends, and he actually was on a show that talked about his experience.
Yeah, it was right before I went to Eastern. Sci-Fi had this show, and it was called, what was it, Haunted Spirits?
School Spirits.
Yeah, School Spirits, and they would go to different universities and talk about their haunted stories. And so I watch it we were over in the Palmer house, and with Mom and Dad before I go, and the main person was this girl talking about her encounter, and I don't remember exactly where all hers was, but hers was mostly walking through the ravine, and I'm assuming it's the side of the ravine like between like the music building and stuff on that side, because that lines up to Sullivan, because she lived in Sullivan, I do believe. And there was this guy, and they talked about there was a smoke box between, on the opposite side of Sullivan, because there's Burnham, a road and a parking lot, and then Sullivan, and it was on the other side. There was a little smoke box when they used to have them, and they look like bus stops, pretty much is the best way to describe it, because they're like all plexiglass, and you go in there and sit. So they were the little smoke areas, and it was, from what I can remember, and it was so long ago, the guy in it was talking, they do their little commentary, and it was about seeing stuff in the ravine. And I know at one point she's running through the ravine because something's chasing her. And I didn't know, but at the time, that guy's name was Nick, and then he would become like one of my BFFs when I got there. So, but that was their experience from being in Sullivan, and that the smoke box right there in the ravine, that area, because it's all grassy. They describe it as wooded, or they make it look really wooded on the show.
It's pretty clear grass.
Yeah, it is really grassy, and it's really big. It's like a big field, and it is creepy, because it's creepy at night because it's really dark, and it goes down behind all these buildings. And so I think it was something running towards the smoke box, if I can remember. I wish we could find it, but we tried tracking it down online.
And it was like the one episode you couldn't find.
Yeah, you can't find it anywhere, which is creepy in itself. But that was an interesting encounter. It was interesting watching it just when it's like the school where you're about to go, and then of course when it's someone you know who's on it.
Yeah. So, next location on campus I'm going to be talking about is the Moore Building, which it used to be used for science classes, and it's connected to the Memorial Science Building. Mm-hmm. But they actually closed the Moore Building side when they built the new science building in 2017.
Wait, it's closed completely?
I think you could probably go in it, but...
Because when I was there, they had the new science building, but I still had science classes in the Moore Building, and that's where Einstein Bagels was.
No, Einstein Bagels is now in... I can't remember what that building is, but it's not in that building anymore. Yeah.
Interesting.
The Memorial Science Building part is still open, because I had a class in there.
I had classes in the Memorial Science. It's creepy.
Yeah, it really is.
It is old and creepy. And it reminds me of Dead by Daylight's Silent Hill stage, minus all the goo.
Yeah.
And
I could totally see that.
Stuff.
Yes.
It's and at night when they turn the lights out and there's nothing but the emergency lights on, creepy. I used to have, like, AFIO meetings would be down there too one year, and it was super creepy. It's probably the creepiest.
I couldn't find anything on the Memorial Science Building. It's creepy in there, but couldn't find any, like, people talking about it. It was actually kind of hard finding more detailed stuff. Like, a lot of them were like, people have encounters. No encounters to be listed. But, okay. But the Moore Building is actually pretty interesting because it is a spirit of a woman who is seen in the halls. She's fully naked.
Oh.
Just a naked woman. And people don't know...
Oh, she's showing her boobies.
You know, all I think is the creepy old lady from It Chapter 2.
Oh, no, that's super creepy. See, I tried to play it off funny. I played off with a little booby joke.
And you
had to bring up that lady.
But the origins of this spirit are unknown. But the sighting is that you turn a corner and she's standing there naked. And sometimes she's soaking wet, like dripping wet. And she'll just stare at you and look kind of surprised and then disappear. And I researched this for like 30 minutes to an hour, just this one part, because I was like, I've got to find something. Couldn't find any background, don't know where the spirit might have came from, like, absolutely nothing. Just that people have seen this naked woman when they turn the corner.
That's creepy.
Another interesting haunting on campus is the Burt Combs Building. And what makes this one interesting is it's mainly just the 3rd and 4th floor men's bathroom. Like, their bathrooms.
That's
And
weird.
not much has been seen, but there's a lot of accounts of unsettling energy, like we talked about.
Yeah.
But, like, just in the bathrooms. And there's a former EKU janitor who came out and said he caught a glimpse of a figure from the corner of his eye, but he always had an eerie feeling when cleaning out those bathrooms at the end of the day. So he caught a glimpse one time, but he always had that unsettling feeling. And another janitor came out and agreed with the other one's story and was like, yeah, there's a feeling in there. But I actually have a kind of funny story to go with this one. So I'm in honors, and one of our assignments we had to do like an improv public speaking group, and the professor who was in charge of that, we somehow in this group got talking about paranormal stuff on campus. And he was like, they say the Combs building is haunted, but I don't know if it is. And he starts telling the story about how one day he was working late in his office, which is in Combs, and all of a sudden police come and check the building and find him, and they're like, a student from one of these dorms, most likely McGregor, I think, called the police and said they saw something in Combs and felt their soul leave their body. Said they were like, I saw a ghost and my soul left my body, and they called the cops. And he was like, I don't know why the student called the police for a ghost, but the police still came and checked to make sure that it wasn't someone that broke in or something like that. But my professor is pretty sure he's the ghost in Combs. But what makes this whole thing better is that the eerie feeling in the bathrooms is 3rd and 4th floor. Well, his office is on the 3rd floor.
So he is.
He's the ghost in Combs.
That's funny.
But I just thought it was hilarious, because I thought back, and then I was like, wait, which floor is his office in? Because I had to have a meeting with him, so I had an email where it said his office, and I was like, he's the ghost in Combs. So, back to dorms. The way I've set this up, because I kind of have a break in between dorms and then regular buildings, and then back to a dorm, is if you look at a map, I'm kind of going outward. So they're all clustered together, and then each one of these is kind of further out from the main ones, like Sullivan, Burnham, and Clay, and the ravine. So Keene Hall is where this one happens. And I've never really heard anyone talk about Keene Hall as one of the haunted buildings. But as I was doing the research, I found that there is a ghost in Keene Hall, that in sometime in the 80s, that there was a football player who either committed suicide or somehow died in his dorm room.
Is Keene the one across the highway?
It's across the highway, like way out there.
That's where they put me at first, and I was like, nay.
No. But ever since, however he passed away, Keene Hall residents have reported loud footsteps, slamming doors, and loud music from rooms. And when they file a complaint from the room that these noises are being heard from, there's not even a resident living in that room. And it's completely empty. And there's actually another haunting in Keene Hall, and it's specific to the 16th floor. I don't know where the first one was, but it was another student who had committed suicide after a fight with their girlfriend. And residents report waking up being watched in the middle of the night by a male apparition that disappears. And I don't personally know anyone who lives in Keene Hall, so I don't have any stories to add or if they've experienced any of these ones. But I thought that was interesting, because it's another one that I feel like I never hear talked about, but it's got 2 good stories that have people saying they've seen it, so...
Because it's just kind of authored by itself.
So the last place on campus that I'm going to talk about that I could find anything from doing research is the Alumni House. And I'm actually not really sure where it's at, like, physically, like, I can look at it on a map, but I can't place it. But it mentions that it's, like, neighbors to the Elmwood Mansion, which would put it over next to, like, Grand Campus, because that's where the Elmwood Mansion is. But I don't know if that's the alumni house over there or not. So, the first encounter that happened at the alumni house happened sometime between 96 and 98 to a man named Ron Wolf, who was the chairman of mass communication department. And he lived in the basement in an apartment, but worked in the office that was upstairs. And one weekend, he was working in the office with all the drapes closed, and then the phone rang, and he went to pick it up, and no one was on the phone. So then he went back upstairs, and the drapes were open again. Or they were open. Well, then he went back downstairs to do something. He closed all the drapes, and went back downstairs to do something, and went back up, and they were open again. So he just, that was the only thing it mentioned. And no one's really sure who the spirit is that haunts the alumni house, but there's speculation that it might be a woman named Emma Watts, who was born in that house and she lived most of her life in the Elmwood mansion and was actually lived there till she died. And she was really known for being eccentric and living completely alone, but she had a bunch of cats. And what I found said she had hundreds of cats, but I don't know how accurate that was, if it was just being dramatic. But some believe that her lonely spirit is who haunts the alumni house, searching for her cats.
Well, they're all behind Burnham.
Yeah. And Clay.
Yeah.
That area. But I thought it was interesting because Emma Watts was actually the woman living in the Elmwood mansion till she died, and was like, I want it left exactly how I was living in it. And when it got sold to EKU, they just left it still. So it's still just standing there. Yeah. No, I don't think you can go inside. What I found was, you can't go inside, but it's completely preserved. So.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And given with how old Eastern's campus is, I'm not really at all surprised with any of the activity going on. Not only in the buildings, but just the energy around campus.
Yeah.
And I know most people say that majority of the buildings on campus are haunted, and honestly, I believe it. So, and if any of you are listening and have attended or are attending EKU, we would love to hear your campus ghost stories. So.
For sure.
Yeah, and I will say, because I didn't go to EKU, I went to Somerset Community, but I even found it interesting listening, and I have no idea what EKU in the dorms look like, except I went into Burnham once when we were helping you move your stuff out.
But it's definitely a very interesting and historical campus. It's very old, and it's very beautiful. I think it's very pretty.
It latched on to Briar because you came and dropped me off.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, what? How many years later? 10 years later?
No.
That's what it feels like.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Until next time,
remember you can find us on
our own website, Facebook,
Instagram,
YouTube, Twitter,
and even Pinterest.
Links are in the description.
As always,
stay weary,
stay leery,
and stay eerie.